I will just very quickly revise what we have done in the starting two chapters. I first explained to you people what is the meaning of the web, the communication between the client and the server, the relationship between the two, how does the communication takes place. We use the HTTP protocol for communication between the client and the server on the internet. Client sends request, server sends response. On the server, there are two different types of resources: static resources and dynamic resources. We can also call them as static pages or dynamic pages. Client request for these pages. If the client requests for a static page, the server simply pick it up from the hard disk and sends it to the client's machine. If a dynamic page is requested, the server picks up, executes it, and then the result of the execution is sent back to the client's machine. All HTML pages, all PDF files, MP3, video files, text files, document files, these are all static pages. All .php, .jsp, .asp, .cgi, .py are all dynamic pages. This is what we have already done. I've already told you, I've been telling you continuously about this. So this is what we studied in the first chapter, the first introduction to the web. Then we started with understanding the exact syllabus of this subject. We started with HTML, the hypertext markup language. The hypertext markup language is used for designing web pages. You all know, I said, when people want to make their own websites, what they do is they design these websites, multiple pages they have in their websites. And they design this using a language called as HTML, hypertext markup language. Hypertext markup language is not actually sufficient to define attractive web pages. HTML has to be used along with one more technology called as CSS, which will help people to develop more attractive web pages. CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, is a technology which is always used in combination with HTML to design good looking, attractive web pages. Okay. So CSS is a different technology altogether. I told you there are so many freelancers who are working today who has knowledge of HTML, cascading style sheet, CSS, and they are building their career in this. They are building their career in this. Okay. So now we are going to start learning what is CSS, how to use CSS along with HTML. We have already seen HTML, how to write HTML documents. In HTML, you know that we have tags, the P tag, the BR tag, the different types of lists, ordered list, unordered list, then how to put hyperlinks. How to put hyperlinks in web pages we have seen, how to put images in web pages we have seen, the different types of headings we have seen, all that we have seen in HTML. Okay, these are tags available. Okay, we know using this we can design web pages. And yeah, I remember last time I told you that I would design a web page using HTML tags and then all that. I think I have done something. Yeah, I think there is something called index.html. So if I double click on this, yeah, more or less this is what I had done in the last class. Okay, so on the top here I have a heading, then after that we have a paragraph here. Okay, and then I had an image here. Okay, you can see there is a small icon here of an image, but since that image is not there, it is a link to image which doesn't exist. So that's why you can see a broken image here, and then you have all these different types of links here. Okay, and the code for this is very simple. You will understand the code directly because we have learned these different types of tags. So if I right click on that and say open with notepad, so you can see this is how my page is. So I have the HTML tag, I have the head tag, body tag, BR tag, and the P tag starts. And then after each line, there is a BR tag because I want everything to come in the new line. And then there is an image tag here. Okay, I want to place an image here. So image src smiley.jpg. Now this smiley.jpg file is not present on the desktop here. So that's why, it is not appearing here. It is not appearing. You can see on my web page in the browser, it will not appear here because you can see that the code in this desktop here, you don't see that smiley.jpg file. That's why. Now I will do one thing. Okay, what I will do is I will now try to put that web that image, I know it is present here. Okay, there is a, yeah, smiley.jpg file is there. I copy this and I paste it on the browser. Okay, I paste it on the browser, control V. So I pasted that smiley.jpg file here. Index is also present here. And now if I refresh this page, you can see that the smiley image appears there. Okay, so basically this is what which we have already done. Okay, so we have this image file image tag here, then we have the ul tag here, all of them li, and that's the reason why you see bullet points here, round bullet points you see. But if you want them to come as 1 2 3 4, then you have to only change this. You have to change this ul to ol, and they will become 1 2 3 4. Okay, I hope you remember this. File save. If I go to my page and I refresh this, you can see that it appears now like 1 2 3 4. So basically this is a simple web page, simple, very very simple web page that I can use the existing tags that we have learned. And these are all links. If I click on this, and it will take me to the next page. Okay, since I have not mentioned any links here, you can see ahref, I did not mention any website, another web page to which it should go to. That's why it is not going to any web page. I can click here, but I'm not going anywhere. It's because I did not mention any file here. That's why. Okay, but the ahref tag is there, so about me will appear like a link on the web page. So basically we have seen all this. Now if you look at this web page here, this doesn't look so attractive. Using only HTML tags, you cannot make an attractive, a good looking website. You have to use, along with HTML, CSS to make it look more good, more attractive. CSS is cascade style sheets. We are going to learn what is CSS now. Okay, so please first of all remember that CSS is cascade style sheets. Cascade style sheets. Next, after that, I want you people to remember the benefits of using CSS. Okay, if you want to design your web pages, make it more attractive and all that using only HTML, then you don't have many options. You cannot make it very attractive using only HTML. Okay, so you have to use something called as CSS to make it more attractive and look more. You can style, you can apply style using CSS. You can apply style to tags. For example, you want to apply a style of font color. You want to give some different color to the font which appears in the P tag. The P tag is a paragraph tag. If you want to give some color to it, or if you want to give some good effect to it, all that you have to give it through the CSS, cascade style sheets. We are going to learn this. We are going to learn how to write the code in CSS, where to write it, how to write the code. All that we will learn slowly. But right now I want you to understand that CSS is always used along with HTML to make your web pages more attractive and beautiful. Okay, so what are the benefits of using CSS? First of all, improved control over formatting. Okay, if you are using CSS, then you have control. You have good control over formatting the entire page. Okay, you can format the P tag, you can format the BR tag, you can format the table tag, different types of tags you can format, and you have better control over that if you're using CSS. You will understand why later on when we start learning this. But right now I want you to remember this one point here. It helps you to control formatting easily. Next is it improves site maintainability. Site maintainability in the sense, like after you have developed the web page, after you have developed the website, maintaining is very important. Later on, your customer can come and tell you, no, this color is not looking good in the background. So you please change it like that and all that. So maintaining the website later on after it has been developed is easy if you use CSS. If you use CSS, maintaining the website becomes easy, and you will understand why. You will understand why later on. But right now, just remember this. First of all, it helps you to better controlling for the format. Next is it helps you to maintain the website nicely and easily. Then improved accessibility. You can access elements of HTML easily using CSS. Then it improves page download speed. If you are using styling using only HTML, download will be a little slow, but if you use CSS, it will be a little fast. Then output flexibility is also there if you use CSS. So I want you people to remember only these 5 points. Control over formatting, maintaining the site becomes easy. You can access HTML elements easily. Page download speed will be more. It will be more output flexibility, improved output flexibility. So you please remember these points. Next, after that comes not very important, but you have to remember that there are different versions of CSS. The different versions of CSS, of course, when CSS was introduced for the first time, CSS1 was there. Then they improved a little bit in that. They introduced CSS2. And the latest CSS that people are using in the world is CSS3. CSS3 is the latest version. Okay. CSS3 is Cascade Style Sheets version 3, the latest version. After this, no new version has been introduced. CSS3, the latest one, and everybody is using CSS3, and we will be using CSS3. We will be learning CSS. Okay, so that's it. I mean, there are different years given in which year what was introduced, all that, but I don't think so. This is very important. Just remember three versions of CSS: 1, 2, 2.1 was also there, but nobody uses that. Directly they went to CSS3. Browser adoption is like which all different browsers are compatible with CSS. Okay, different browsers are there. Some people might use Chrome to browse your website. Some people might use Internet Explorer. Some people might use Firefox, and some people might use it in the mobile phone. In the mobile phone, different types of browsers are available. So this CSS, is it compatible with all the browsers? Let us say your web page is requested on Chrome, whether it appears properly there. If a web page is requested on Firefox browser, is it properly displaying things there? So my uh, reason that I'm trying to tell you, the thing that I'm trying to tell you is that is CSS compatible with all the browsers? Okay, remember that CSS is compatible with almost all the browsers that exist today. In fact, if let us say I have a company and I want to develop a new browser of my own, okay, something called as Navid browser. Let us say tomorrow I want people to use, I want to develop my own browser, Navid browser. Okay, now I will develop that browser keeping in mind CSS. I have to be compatible with CSS because all the web pages are defined using CSS. Okay, so remember, almost all browsers support CSS. Okay, then after that, which CSS they support? CSS1, of course, everybody supports. What about CSS2? Everybody supports CSS2 also. So they have given percentage of how many browsers support CSS1, CSS2, and CSS3. Now today, almost all browsers support CSS3. That you just remember. Next is syntax of CSS. Very important. I told you today's class is going to be very, very important. We are learning a new technology called as CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. When do we write the code for CSS? Where do we write it? How do we write it? Where do we write the CSS? That you don't worry about right now. But whenever you write CSS code, you have to write it like this only. This is the syntax of writing CSS. This is a syntax. This is what you have to live with it now. You have to live with this particular syntax. If you want to develop yourself as a web developer, tomorrow you want to venture into companies who develop websites, develop web-based applications and all that, CSS is very important. And this is a syntax that you have to remember for the rest of your life. It's simple, very simple. In the syntax of CSS, the first thing that appears, this part is called as a selector. This is called as a selector. Now, what is a selector? I will tell you step by step. First comes selector, followed by a flower bracket, opening a flower bracket. And in the flower bracket, then you have property, then you have colon, and then you have value, then you have a semicolon, followed by another property if you have. Then after the property, there is a colon again. After the colon, there is another value. Then again, there is a semicolon. And then if you want, there can be one more property and value after this semicolon. And then finally, there is closing of flower bracket. This is how we write CSS code. CSS code is not like a programming language where you define variables, you write if condition, while loop. No, please remember, CSS is not programming language. It is used for styling your web pages. It's a technology which is used for styling your web pages. So how do we write the CSS? First, we write a selector, then we write a flower bracket, opening and closing. And in this opening and closing of flower bracket, inside we write property value pair, property value pair, property value pair, property value pair. If you have more property value pairs, you can place any number of property and value pairs inside the opening and closing of flower brackets. What is this property? What is this value? We will understand. But right now, just understand the syntax. You must have noticed that all properties and values end with a semicolon. So this property and value end with a semicolon. This property and value end with a semicolon. Even if it is a last property and value, it should end with a semicolon. Even if it is a last property value pair, it should be ended with a semicolon. Remember that. Okay, this is how CSS is written. Okay, now let us go further. Let us go further and see what is the meaning of a selector. Selector is that part of the CSS which will, yeah, before going to selector, let me tell you that inside this flower bracket, we define the style, okay? We define the style. So from this opening of flower bracket and closing of flower bracket, we define the style. Style means what? What should be the color? What should be the color of the font? Okay, what should be the, if you have a table, what should be the border thickness of the table? What should be the color of the border of the table? So the style is defined inside the flower brackets. The style is defined inside the flower brackets. Okay, remember, property is the property to which you assign a value. Property can be a font property, it can be border property, it can be margin property, all that, and then you assign a value to it. Font, if I write font here, then I write here color, red, which means that the font should be of red color, and so on. So inside the flower bracket, we define the style, we define property, and then we assign a value to it. Okay, now going here, let us see what is selector. The style that you apply, the style that you define here, the style that you define here in the flower bracket should be applied on which tag? The style that you define here should be applied on which tag is nothing but the selector. You all remember that EM is a tag. Emphasize, I had shown you this. It displays the font between that in italics. P is a tag, you know, P is a tag. P is which tag? The paragraph tag. So now if I write my style like this, if I define my CSS like this by writing the selector as EM, bracket color red, what it means, you know, it means that in the web page, where this style is defined, in the web page where this style is defined, in that web page, if EM tag appears, please display the text in that with red color. This is what it means. I will repeat myself. What I said is, if I define this style in a web page, in that web page, if an EM tag appears, please display the font, of that EM tag with which color? With color red, Similarly, another example you can see here, there is a P tag and there is a definition of a lot of property and values here. Okay, the first property is margin. Margin 5 pixels. 5 pixels to the left, 0 pixels on the top, 10 pixels on the right, 0 pixels to the bottom. This is how we assign a value to the margin property. Left, top, right, bottom. Okay, so font weight, I say that font weight should be bold. So if there is a font in the paragraph, it should be displayed with bold. Font family means you know that font are of different faces, like you have Times New Roman, you have Arial, you have Courier, you have Verdana, you have so many font faces are there, no? So font family should be Arial. I define this. So I define a style for the P tag. What does it mean that if I define this style in a web page, in that web page, if there is a P tag, I am telling the browser, I am commanding the browser to please follow this style for the P tag. So wherever the P tag appears, the browser will make sure that the P tag will have this margin. From the left hand side, the browser will display a space of 5 pixels. From the right hand side, it will maintain a gap of 10 pixels. Then the browser will make sure that in the P tag, whatever font is coming will be displayed bold. The browser will make sure that in the P tag, the text is displayed with Arial font. The text is displayed with Arial font. And then you can see that Arial is one font family, Helvetica is another, then sans serif is another. Then you will say, sir, which style will apply? Because these are all different styles. What the browser will do is it will try to apply this style first. If this font is available with the browser will display the font with Arial style. If this font is not available with the browser, then the browser will display it in Helvetica font. If this Helvetica font is not available, then the browser will display it in sans serif font. You understood? So there are options you can give. If this is available, please display it with this. First priority will be given to this. If not this, then this, and so on. So if I define this style in my web page, where to define it, I will tell you that later on. Don't worry. Where to write this code, I will tell you that later on. But try to understand, when you write this code in the web page, where will this be applied? So if I declare this for the p tag in the web page, if there is a p tag, the margin will be this, the font. The browser will make sure that it will display it with this margin, this font weight, and this font family, and so on. I hope you understood. So you understood what is the meaning of selector? Selector, in short, I will tell you, will tell the browser where to apply this style. Selector is the name of the tag on which this style should be applied. So you must be thinking that if selector is always tags, then why did we call it as a selector? Why didn't we call this as tag name? Why this part is not called as a tag name? Because here what we specify is a tag name. Why are we not specifying? Why are we not mentioning this as a tag name? Remember that here, whatever you write, right now it is tags only. You can see EM is a tag, P is a tag, but it is not necessary that always here you mention the tag. It is not necessary that here what you mention is always tags, not necessary. Then you'll ask me, sir, if you don't mention tags here, then what else do you mention here? We can mention a class here. A class. What is the meaning of a class? We can define a style and we can name it. We can give it a name called as a class. We can give it a name called as, let us say, my style. I can write here my style and define a style. I can write here selector as my style, and then I can define a style here. And then wherever in the body of the page you want to apply that style, you can apply that style. So remember that here in the selector, it is not always necessary that you will write the name of a tag. You can write the name of a class there. So we are going to learn different types of selectors later on. Okay, we have tag selector. When we write the name of a tag there, it is called as a tag selector. When we write the name of a class here, it is called as class selector. So on. So different types of selectors are there. We will learn that later on. But right now, what I want you people to remember is that here what we specify is not necessary that it should always be tag names. You can also specify a class name there. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. So you understood the syntax of the CSS. What we specify first is a selector followed by a flower bracket. In the flower bracket, we write property value pairs, property value pairs, property value pairs separated by semicolons. In the end also there should be a semicolon. Okay, fine. So this is an example of a selector. And when I write this style in my web page, remember that wherever in the web page EM tag appears, the color of that font will be red. Wherever there is a P tag appearing, the color will be font so and so. Okay, so this is the meaning of cascade style sheets, and this is the syntax of CSS. I want you people to remember this. In the examination, they will ask you a question. What is CSS? What are the benefits of using CSS? Explain with the help of an example the syntax of CSS. So you have to write the general syntax of CSS first, then you have to write these two examples. Okay, let us go further. Let us first understand what is the meaning of a selector. Like I had told you, the selector identifies which element or elements in the HTML documents will be affected by the declaration in the rule. The selector identifies which element or elements in the HTML document will be affected by the declaration in the rule. So which element? The style will be applied. That is what we tell through the selector. This one sentence is sufficient. Another way of thinking of selector is that they are pattern that is used by the browser to select the HTML elements that will receive the style. That's it. Right now, you just remember a selector is something which will tell the browser. Selector is something which will tell the browser on which tag the style should be applied. That's it. Next, property. In the syntax of CSS, what you have first is selector, next is property. What is a property? I told you properties can be font property. In font property also, we have font family, we have font size, we have font style, we have font weight, we have font face. So many are there. So we will see this step by step later on when we go in detail. Then we have the text property. If let us say you have a very big paragraph, okay, and then you want the font to have a lot of spacing in between. You want the font to have a lot of spacing in between. If I write Naveed, NEVEED, what should be the distance? What should be the space between N and A? Between each character of a word, how much space should be there? Between each word, how much space should be there? All that you specify through the text property. The text property will help you to style the text which will appear in your web page. What type of styles you can give? alignment of the text. You want to align it to the left or you want to align it to the right. What should be the spacing between the words? Text decoration means if you want the text to be underlined, if you want the text to be striked off. So we are going to see all of these examples, okay, when I will execute this and I will show it to you. So these are the different properties in the text property. Font property is the first one. Next is the text property. Then is color and background. Color and background is another property that you mention in the style. Why do we mention this? For example, let us say you want the paragraph to be of a particular background color. Whenever you define a paragraph, you want the paragraph to have a color of light pink, let us say. So you can specify color colon pink, so that for the paragraph we can define. So color and background is another property that we can use to define our style. Then comes borders. Borders is another property. So border color, border width, border style, border top color, top width, etc. So many are there in border. And when do we normally use a border? We normally use a border for tables. Okay, table will have a left border, right border. It will have border from all the sides and all that. No, so we will see even borders. So which are the different properties available? Font, text, colors and backgrounds, borders. Then you have spacing, you have sizing, then you have layout, then you have lists. So how many altogether? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 different types of properties that are available in CSS. Font, text, color and background, borders, spacing, sizing, layouts, and finally lists. Now, I explained to you people what is the meaning of list in the last to last class. Ordered list, unordered list, all that. Now, some people might have got a doubt. Sir, when you defined your style here, yeah, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 I had done. If I change this to UL, unordered list, if I change this to UL, unordered list, file, save, if I go to my browser, if I refresh this, you can see that bullets come here. Now, these are round bullets. Now, somebody will ask me a question, sir, what if I want square bullets to come? What if I want square bullets to come? Or triangle or rectangle? Or maybe I want a small image to appear there in the form of a bullet. How do we do that? So we do it through the list style. List style, image, list style, all that. We do it through list style. Okay. So all that we do it through here. I hope you understood what is the meaning of a property. Now comes values. Now comes values. In a CSS, what is there? 3 things are there: selector, property, and value. Selector we know. Selector means the browser should know on which to apply the style. That is selector. We tell it through there. Then comes properties. These are the different types of properties which are available, which you can use to define your style. Next is value. Value is something which you will assign to a property. A value is something which you will assign to a property. So first of all, there is. So we have last 10 minutes remaining. So we have the name value that we supply. For example, let us say there is a property called as color. Let us say there is a property called as color. Okay. So how do we specify color to the color property? You will say you directly write down the name of the color: red, pink, green, like that. Okay, of course you can use name. This is how there's an example here. You can use name of the color: color colon red, 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 or you can specify black or hot pink, something like that. You know, there are different names given to the colors. So so you can specify the name of the color directly. So this is the value that we are assigning to this property color. Property is color, value is red. Property is color, value is hot pink. So these are how we specify value to a property. If you don't know the name of the color, then you can always use RGB values. You can use RGB values. RGB, red, green, blue. So if the property is color, then you can specify the color in the form of RGB value also. You have to simply write RGB small into bracket, specify the redness, greenness, and blueness. Red, green, blue. So 255,0,0 will be a complete red color, because 255 is R. This is R. R stands for red, G stands for green, and B stands for blue. So you specify the how much red should be there in that color, how much blue should be there in that, green should be there in that color, and how much blue should be there in that color by using these values. The minimum value that you can specify here is 0, and the maximum value that you can specify here is 255. 255. So this color here, RGB 255,0,0 is a complete red color, because 255 red is completely, blue is 0 and green is 0. When you look at this example here, RGB 255, 105, 180, this is complete red. How much? 105 points of green is added to it, 180 points of blue is added to it. So it becomes some color. It becomes some color with a combination of complete red, little bit of green, and a little bit more of blue. So you can specify the color even in terms of RGB values. So we will see all these examples. I will show you the demonstration of this later on. So how do we specify the values? You can specify by directly using the name of the color, or you can specify RGB value, or you can specify hexadecimal value. Hexadecimal value is also like that only. We write color. Hexadecimal value start with an hash symbol followed by 2 R, 2 for G, and 2 for B. This is also RGB only. Remember, this is also RGB only. FF means 255. You know, FF is a hexadecimal value for 255. So FF here means complete red, no green, no blue. So FF0000 is a complete red color. What is 0000 FF? Complete blue color. Complete blue color. I hope you understood what I'm trying to say. Okay, so you can specify the value to the color property using hexadecimal value also like this. Then you can also use RGB RGBA value. Okay, this defines partially transparent background color and all that, where A, the last value here which you can specify, is the alpha value, which will tell you transparency of how much opaque it should be. If you write 0,0 here in the last, it will be completely transparent. If you write 1.0, it will be completely opaque. So if you want to control the transparency of the color, then you can specify it in the form of RGBA. Finally, you can also write the alpha value. Alpha value will decide how much transparent your this should be. And then you can also specify it in terms of HSL value also. HSL value also you can specify. Okay, HSL is hue, saturation, and light values. You can see an example of this, and we can explain this later on and see. Okay, so I hope this is clear. The syntax of CSS. We understood what is the meaning of a selector. We saw what is the meaning of a property, and then we saw what is the meaning of value, how to specify the values. So there are different types of values that you assign to the different units of measurement. For example, now in the margin, in the right margin, what do you specify? You don't specify any value there. You don't specify any name there. Like how we specify a name for the color property. How do we specify the name of the color for the color property? Here, let us say I want to give a margin, right margin I want to give. So how do you specify the value for the margin? You have to give it in terms of spaces. And how is spaces calculated? In terms of inches, centimeters, millimeters, pixels. So how is distance measured? In terms of pixels, or in terms of inches, or in terms of centimeters, and all that. So not all properties, you have to assign color. If it is color property, then you can assign it in terms of name, RGB value, all that. But there are some properties to which you have to assign some measurement. For example, the right margin should be 1 inch, if I want to say that. Okay, so you have to specify a measurement there, like 1 inch, like 3 centimeters. You have to give a measurement there. So which are the different measures that you use? Which are the different units that you use to specify this measurement? Okay, so we always we use pixels. Pixels is one very commonly used measurement unit. Then you can specify even in terms of percentage. Okay, percentage. And then there is one more called as EM. Let us see what is this EM later on. Pixels, EM, percentage. Then you have this EX. So we will see all these when we go to learning how to specify a distance into the properties. Okay, so all these are different types of ways how you can specify measuring units to a property in CSS. If you have a CSS, in the CSS there is a property to which you have to assign to it some measurement. These are the units that we use. Okay, pixels, EM, REM, inches, centimeters, all that. Okay, so we will see this later on when we go for the example. Okay, now I think there is only 3 minutes remaining. I think we will stop here. Next is very important from examinations point of view, the locations of style. Like where where exactly you have to write the style. If you have a web page, in the web page, where do you write this? Do you write this in the head section of the HTML page, or do you write it in the body section of the HTML page? Do you write it in the paragraph only? Where do you write it? So where are the different locations where you have to define the styles? Where are the different places where you have to write the code for defining the style in the HTML document? More or less, we have understood the syntax of the HTML page. Okay, the HTML page always starts with the HTML tag, then comes the head tag, then comes the body tag, and all the tags has to close properly. All that we have seen. But in between that, somewhere we have to write CSS. We have to define the styles by writing the selector, by writing the property and value. All that we have to write. Where to write it is a question. So this is what we will be learning under locations of styles, where to define the style. There are three places. I will just give you a little hint. Then I will of course start from here only in the next class. I will just give you a little hint. There are three places where you can define your styles. In other words, there are three places where you can write your CSS code. First is inline. The first place is inline styles. The second is embedded styles. Embedded. First is inline, second is embedded style, and third is external style. So these are the three places where you have to define your styles. Three places where you have to write the code for your CSS. First is inline, second is embedded, third is external. Remember these three words. Okay, inline, embedded, and external. So we will see in these three places how to write the style, and that is different syntax. And tomorrow I think we will be able to I will be able to show you some demonstrations of how to define the style, and the color property, the font property, the margin property, all that we will see. Okay, we will stop here today. We'll stop here today. If you have any doubts about this, you can please note them down and keep it, so that in the next class you can ask me. Okay, so we will stop here.